week 17 of the fantasy football season, and his top 12 defense DST units. I'm ranking this week number 1 the San Francisco 49ers. So the Niners last 3 out of 4 ball games, double-digit fantasy points. And this week here, I think they're going to pounce on Stidham, who's in at quarterback now for Derek Carr this week. I think they're going to get a few sacks. I think a few turnovers, and possibly even finding the end zone is a possibility for this 49er defense. So like I said, they've been one of the top units all season. And now with Stidham getting his first start this season here, this late in the year, I think the 49ers have a ball game. And I got them at 1. Number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs, their defense has been a solid unit for the most part over the last few weeks. I know this week they versus the Denver Broncos, a team they had trouble with a few weeks ago after they got up to a 3-touchdown lead and pretty much blew it. But obviously the Chiefs held on and won that game. But the Broncos last week couldn't get anything going. Los Angeles Rams, they took apart Russell Wilson in that one with a few sacks, 3 turnovers in that ball game. And I think the Chiefs here in Arrowhead could do a similar type of job to Russell Wilson, where I don't know, he just lost it over the last couple seasons is Russell Wilson, and he's got pretty decent weapons over there in Denver, but nothing was going. So I think the Chiefs in this one have another solid ball game. They'll get to Wilson a few times, probably a couple turnovers, and I got him at 2. Number 3, the Dallas Cowboys. So right here, Malik Willis is starting at quarterback, and if that wasn't worse enough, a guy who don't really throw the football and just read play option, it doesn't look good for Derrick Henry playing as well in tonight's ball game. So this Cowboy team, they could have their way in this one with a few backups, especially a quarterback and running back for this Tennessee Titan team, where no one's going to do anything, and this Cowboy team possibly could go for a monster ball game. So this week here, with those factors against the Tennessee Titans and a Cowboy defensive line that is still vicious, even though they've given up 70 points in the last couple weeks here, is this Dallas team. I think they get back on track on defense this week at a banged-up Titan team, and I got them at 3. Number 4, New England Patriots. To talk about banged up, it looks like Tua is going to be out once again with another concussion, and Teddy Bridgewater most likely will be the starter, and if he's not the third-string quarterback, Skylar Thompson will be the starter. So this Patriot defense, we know they're not the opportunistic defense. We know they get a lot of turnovers, and we've seen it the last few weeks here where they found the end zone in ball games. So right here versus the Miami Dolphins, I think we could see more of the same for this Patriot defense, possibly finding the end zone once again, shutting down Teddy Bridgewater if Tua's not going to play, which it definitely looks like he's not this week here. And this Patriot defense, they're always well coached, and they always got good playmakers on it. So I got them at 4. Number 5, Philadelphia Eagles. So the Eagles, decent matchup versus the New Orleans Saints. Andy Dalton, he's been hit or miss, but a miss for the most part this season here for this New Orleans Saints offense. And it's surprising to me they didn't go back to Jameis Winston. But anyway, this Eagle defense last week got torched for 40 points by the Dallas Cowboys. But the Eagles back at home this week. I think they regroup. And to be honest, there's not that many weapons here on this New Orleans Saints team. It looks like Chris Olave is going to play in this game. Alvin Kamara, he missed practice early in the week, but it doesn't look like he's going to miss the ball game here. But still, this New Orleans team, they don't really put up a lot of points. A lot of grinded out ball games and stuff. So I think the Philadelphia Eagles defense bounces back this week. And I got them at 5. Number 6, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Jaguars, their defense, they've been taking opportunities away from quarterbacks. They've been scoring the football. And we saw it a couple weeks ago, a walk-off pick 6 versus the Dallas Cowboys in overtime to win it. So this week here, a good matchup of Houston. Davis Mills, one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league this season. Damian Pierce, we know he's out. Brandon Cooks, yes, he did come back, but he's not a guy that I don't think will be that much of a factor. And this Jaguar team, they're smelling a division championship now, and I think this defense comes out big in this ball game. Last week we saw them shut the Jets down. Now this week indoors, defense can play a little bit quicker. And I got them in number 6. Familiar with the Texans do, versing them 2 times a year here. And I think they have a good ball game. Number 7, the New York Giants. So the Giants versus the Colts, the most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. So the Colts here got to make the travel to MetLife Stadium. I know this Giant defense, they don't get a lot of takeaways and stuff, but their defense that could hold teams down into the mid-teens, low 20s. They could get a few sacks on the quarterback, and I think in this one they're going to do that to Nick Foles. And if they do pivot back to Matt Ryan, more of the same. Matt Ryan has been a pick machine this season. This offensive line is in shambles for this Indianapolis Colts team. And then another thing, Jonathan Taylor, obviously out for the season as well. So I like the Giants at number 7, and I think they can have a good ball game. Number 8, the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers last week, their defense came and played where their offense didn't do much in that ball game on Monday Night Football versus the Colts, but they had a few interceptions. They had a decent amount of sacks in that one. And this week here versus the Rams and Baker Mayfield, I think the Charger defense could do a little bit more of the same, get a couple turnovers on Mayfield, which he's usually good for, even though he's definitely played much better with this Ram team in the first 3 weeks than he has all season with Carolina. But I think this Charger team, they're ready to go in this one. They want to make a statement in the LA game. And I think the defense here plays another good one like they did last week versus the Colts. Number 9, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Bucs a pretty decent matchup versus the Carolina Panthers. And I know the Panthers the last 3 out of 4 weeks have had victories since Sam Darnold's been inserted back into the starting lineup coming off injury. But the Bucs here, they know they got to keep winning games. And this is a big game. I know 7-8, they're in first place in the division. But right here, the Panthers have been playing good football like I mentioned. But right here, I think they could get to Sam Darnold. I think they could shut down the run game for the most part. No, they ran for over 300 yards last week in a crazy ball game versus the Detroit Lions. But I think the Bucs are getting back to basics over the last few weeks here. And I think they have a good game versus the Carolina Panthers. And I got them at 9. Number 10, the Baltimore Ravens. So right here, we know the Steelers offense ain't that great. Najee Harris is having a down year. The wide receivers have been hit or miss. Deontay Johnson, definitely a down year. George Pickens, I know he's a rookie, so there's still more room for development and consistency. But this Raven defense, they're a good unit at home. I know they had a couple ball games where the secondary was leaky, but in this one versus the Steelers, I could see a low-scoring game between both these teams here, especially if Lamar's out once again. And I think this Raven defense could have a decent outing. And I got them at 10. Number 11, the Washington Commanders. So the Cleveland Browns are coming to town this week here. And this Brown offense has had trouble moving the football across the board. Nick Chubb's numbers down the last month of the season. Deshaun Watson, he hasn't looked like himself so far in the first few games he started as a Cleveland Brown with a couple-year layoff. And also, Amari Cooper, he's not a great player on the road. So right here, all those factors playing well for the Washington Commanders. And I could see this a grinded-out game between both these teams. Not high-scoring, in the teens to 20 range for these teams. Yeah, and the Commanders, like I said, they play better at home than they do on the road, this defense, and it's obviously a home game for them. So I got them 11, and the 12th and final defense I'm ranking this week here is the Buffalo Bills. I know it's a tough matchup at the Cincinnati Bengals, but Joe Burrow, he's still good for a couple turnovers here and there. We saw it even last week where he had a good ball game. He did throw a pick 6 in that one at the New England Patriots. So right here, Joe Burrow, the offensive line's banged up now with Lyle Collins out for the season, a big piece on the right side of the line. And I think this Bill pass rush could get to Burrow a few times in this game and possibly cause a few turnovers. I'm not saying they're going to go out there and put a monster performance on, but it's definitely a game where they can make a few plays and get a few turnovers. And this is still going to be possibly a shootout. So that's the top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking here in a crucial Week 17 of the fantasy football season.